And good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much for joining me. There's so much news to talk about. But yesterday, I was having a little bit of technical difficulty with some videos I wanted to play. So I'm going to try again to play them. But I really wanted to revisit the unfortunate event that happened in South Carolina with Larisha Thompson. And I want us to not forget her, even if the media really isn't covering it. We need to make sure that we are covering it because this is an issue. When President Trump came back into office, there were a few laws that they made that were passed, like the Lincoln Riley Act. And there were some other, I want to say, policies instituted. President Trump also initiated the 1798, Alien Enemies Act, basically, saying that we had an invasion going on in our country. He also deemed there were certain gangs that he deemed them terrorists on our soil for our protection. And so, you know, when we see things like this happening, things like this shouldn't be happening. And we should not have people still here on our soil. I know that ICE is doing everything that they can, working with local law enforcement. Some local law enforcement is working along with ICE, some aren't. And at the end of the day, innocent people should not be losing their lives. So, with that, hopefully, like I said, this video is going to play. I'm going to try my best, you guys. It's just me.
Of 6 individuals in our community, for number one, wasn't supposed to be here, and two, took the life of an innocent lady. Was out here trying to get something for nothing.
A group of young men and boys, one of whom is only 13 years old, face charges now in a woman's murder tonight. Authorities say 40-year-old Larisha Thompson was found shot to death inside her car in Lancaster County. Today, the sheriff's office shared more information about how this happened and how her death is linked to a second crime. WBTV's Rachel Richardson digging deeper into these latest updates, and she's joining us now live from Lancaster County. So, Rachel, what do we know about these 6 people who've been charged?
Well, like you said, the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office has said that those 6 suspects range in age from 13 years old to 21 years old. And authorities have also said that the 17-year-old will be charged as an adult. All of them are facing murder charges and burglary charges. And the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office says that the 2 crimes that you just mentioned are connected. On April 30th, Lancaster County Sheriff's deputies were sent to investigate a burglary at the Van Wyck Mark on Rock Hill Highway.
Found a door on the northwest side of the building that had been forced open. They also discovered a security camera at the location that had been shot.
On May 2nd, 40-year-old Larisha Thompson was found dead in her car on Riverside Road.
Deputies responded and discovered Larisha Thompson was deceased from an apparent gunshot wound.
Sheriff Barry Vail explains that ballistics from both scenes found the same 9mm handgun was used in both crimes. Thursday, law enforcement served a search warrant at 21-year-old Asael Amidadas Torres Chirino's home. They found the 9mm they say is linked to the crimes. He was arrested and questioned along with 5 more.
It was determined that all 6 of these individuals were involved in the burglary and the murder of Miss Thompson.
Torres Chirinos, 18-year-old Arden Ramos Adari, 17-year-old Jason Sobaid Pinata Salgado are facing murder, attempted armed robbery, and burglary charges. Torres Chirinos is facing additional firearms charges. The sheriff says all 6 suspects are believed to be in the U.S. illegally. South Carolina's 6th Circuit solicitor Randy Newman wants to prosecute in state court.
The 3 adults will be entitled to a bond hearing at a later date if they request that. No requests in at this time. The juveniles are entitled to a detention hearing.
Our investigators showed tremendous dedication, followed every lead out, and refused to stop till all 6 of these individuals were taken into custody and charges brought against each one of them.
Law enforcement says that unfortunately it seems Ms. Thompson was a random victim in this robbery. They say they have reached out to her family members to keep them up to date on this ongoing investigation. In Lancaster County, Rachel Richardson, WBTV, on your side.
Okay, so my problem with this whole situation is why? Why did they say that these people were entitled to representation? These are criminals that are here on our soil illegally. The only conversation we should be having is, when is ICE showing up to deport them, period. Because the one with the gun, actually, because we read about this yesterday, he had already been deported in 2023. Why is he here? Why is he driving a car? He should have never been on our soil. And somebody lost their life because of your lack of upholding the laws. You know, there needs to be, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think the family of this woman who unfortunately lost her life to these people on the soil illegally, you should sue everyone in the state top down, the city, the county, and the state, because they failed to protect American citizens. They failed. Now, the gentleman there, I guess I don't know if he's the mayor or whoever he is, he was just like, yeah, they didn't stop until they found all 6 of them. Well, one of the 6 shouldn't have been here in the first place because he was already deported in 2023. He shouldn't have been on our soil. How did he get back here? That's what I'm talking about. You're not talking about that part. And that's the part that's really, truly frustrating people. And they're tired of it. And I also wanted to play this video from Nancy Mace. Now, Nancy Mace, she is a House representative from South Carolina.
I want to know what the hell is going on in Charleston County. Today we sent a letter to Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano regarding her releasing criminal illegal aliens out onto the streets of Charleston. Some of these individuals are very bad individuals, including most recently a criminal illegal alien who was caught in solicitation of a minor, allowed him back onto the streets. This is the kind of person who should be deported immediately out of our country, but instead, Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano allows this individual to walk the streets of the Low Country. I don't think so. So my letter's going after her and asking her for communications internally in Charleston County about criminal illegals who are arrested. Also communications between Charleston County, the Sheriff's Office, and ICE.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, those were different individuals from the ones that just committed this other crime. But as you heard her say, it's the sheriff releasing these. The sheriff? Really? Like, okay, I don't know why these people think that they're untouchable. Committing these crimes? Yes, sheriff, you need to be removed immediately. If you are releasing violent criminals back on the street, now I can understand how this person who should have been deported, right, the minute he re-entered South Carolina, because he was already deported, it should have been like, oh no, you got to go. We already deported you from this country. You need to leave. But now someone has lost their life behind it. See, it's that part. And I don't see the NAACP. I don't see Al Sharpton. I don't see whatever the other lawyer who's there at everything. If this was a black-white issue, oh my gosh. You know, we need to just completely flood the streets. But you're not here when it's in somebody who's here illegally. You're not here talking about this. And this is the disgusting part that people are saying out loud. And this is what people are truly tired of you doing. What are you doing? And why are you allowing us to be just off like that? So I wanted to share my screen. Now, I know sometimes I will use Google, sometimes I will use Brave. I tend to like Brave a little bit more because it protects my information. But there are some times where I do like to use Google because they do tend to come up with different information. And what I was looking for, I wasn't looking for an exact number with this search, but I was just looking for the number of maybe unauthorized individuals just in South Carolina based on this incident that we just had, right? So, according to South Carolina data, in 2016, approximately 85,000 undocumented immigrants resided in South Carolina. This accounted for 35% of the migrant population and 2% of the total state population. Okay. Between 2010 and 2014, over 107,000 people in South Carolina, including nearly 50,000 U.S. citizens, lived with at least one undocumented family member. Okay. Yeah. And this was back in 2016. We're not talking about 2020. We're not talking about 2024. This was in 2016. That's what the data where they started tracking this. So, challenges of local data. So, precise local figures are hard to determine because no national surveys collect specific data on the legal status of foreign born residents. The Migration Policy Institute, MPI, and similar organizations use methodologies that involve analyzing U.S. Census Bureau data and other factors to determine unauthorized immigrant populations at the state level. So basically, no one's tracking this. Nobody's manning the store on how many of these people are here legally or illegally, right? That's why people keep flipping out. They're removing people that are citizens. No, they're not. If ICE is removing somebody, trust me, they investigated that. They investigated the whole situation. Now, I also wanted to look at the profile and makeup of Lancaster because I wanted to see, well, who's on the city council, right? Here's your city council. We've got Harris, Hood, Lowell, we've got Taylor, and these are all people that are over districts, right? So these are city council districts, right, that make up Lancaster County. So majority of these people look like this woman who recently lost her life. Where are they? Because I haven't seen them in any news broadcast with outrage. Where are they standing up for this family of this woman who lost her life senselessly? She should be alive right now. She should not be dead. Her children should have their mom. What are you doing in South Carolina? Right? You just heard Nancy Mace go off, you know, telling us about how um, the sheriff is letting people out who are known criminals, right? They committed a crime. That's why they're in custody. And instead of having them deported, they're just releasing them right back out on the street. What is going on in South Carolina? Is a big question because I'm in Georgia, so I don't want any of that nonsense down here. And the other thing I wanted to pull up, remember we said MPI earlier when I was reading and that little snippet that I found from Google. So MPI is the Migration Policy Institute. So the profile of unauthorized population. And this is just to the best of their ability, right? Because I already read for you that they really don't have all of the accurate numbers. So there needs to be a nationwide push to get accurate numbers of who was here legally and who was not, right? Because here's the deal, it makes us a better country when we know who's not here legally, right? When we know who's undocumented, because A lot of these people need to go back to their home countries with their children, by the way. I'm not separating families. Absolutely not. Nope. Everybody's got to go one fell swoop, right? But on top of that, because some of these individuals are given resources, right, that should be going to American citizens only or people that are naturalized if they need them, those things we need to know. Because, see, according to 1996 federal law, if you were to come here from another country, you need to have a job and you need to have a way to provide for yourself and get a place to live. You need to be able to provide for yourself. You cannot get state assistance or federal assistance. But all that was tossed out of the window. What are we doing? So, unauthorized population is about 88,000. Okay. They're tracking that 44,000 are of Mexican descent, 10,000 Honduras, 8,000 are Guatemalan. Okay. So the regions of birth, 66,000 identify with Mexico and Central America, South American, 6,000, European, Canada, or Oceanic, 5,000, 9,000 are Asian. Their regions of birth. Okay. So it's not everybody's not from Mexico, everybody. I need people to understand that. Not everybody's from Mexico. Not everybody's from South America. As you can see, there's Asian, there's European, Canada, and Oceanic. So, yeah, not everybody's from Mexico. And so, years of U.S. residence. Now, there's a difference between residence and citizenship. And see, they keep trying to call these people residents, and they're here illegally. Stop trying to sugarcoat this. They've committed a crime and they are here. Even if it's an infraction that's civil, it's still a crime. You still have to pay a fee for it. And if you refuse to leave and come back here the right way, and you're just like, I'm just going to stay here, that's even worse. Because you're just, shoving it in our face. You don't care about our laws and you don't care about our country. Get off the soil. Get off the soil. You should not be here after amnesty. And this is just something that I heard in passing. Somebody was here in 1986. This was after amnesty, and like maybe 81, 82. They've never filed for citizenship. They've never gotten naturalized. They're just hanging out here illegally and okay with it because nobody's challenging them and sending them home. If everybody got sent home who's here illegally, people be terrified to be here illegally, and they should. They should. They shouldn't be here. They need to get up off the soil. Okay. So years of U.S. residence, this does not make you a citizen, just letting people know. Less than 5 years, 21,000. 5 to 9 years, 14,000. 10 to 14 years, 20,000. 15 to 19 years, 20,000. 20 or more years, 12,000. So there's 12,000 people hanging out in South Carolina, and they're not citizens of this country. They're just hanging out. Just here. Just doing whatever. It's that's upsetting. They need to get up off the soil. Like all this needs to go back to where you came from. You need to go home now. Now let's get the populations that are here illegally by age. Under 16, 7,000. 16 to 24, 13,000. 25 to 34, 26,000. 35 to 44, 26,000. 45 to 54, 11,000. And 55 and over, 5,000. All of these people are here illegally. Now, a lot of people say, well, what about, babies born here? Babies born here illegally are illegal. Period. If their parents are not naturalized, at least one of them, and if one of them is not at least an American citizen, yeah, they're here illegally. If both parents are here illegally, that child's illegal. This whole birthright citizenship thing that people keep trying to hang their hat on, that person should have never been granted citizenship under the 14th Amendment because it wasn't written for him. The naturalization part in there was, but his parents couldn't get naturalized. He was never naturalized. Okay? They got it wrong. And people have been hanging their hat on that for decades. It's wrong. We have naturalization laws, we have immigration laws, and we need to stand up as a community and demand they be followed. Now, the gender, we've got 38,000 of these individuals here illegally. Parental status, population ages 15 to over, 82,000. And this is just a breakdown of the 82,000. So they reside with at least one U.S. citizen child under 18, 30,000. Reside with non-citizen children, only under 18, 6,000. Reside with no children. 47,000 people are here in South Carolina, no babies, so they can't use the anchor baby excuse, but they're here illegally. Stop calling them residents. You're illegally. It's bad. Marital status. And this is, going from that 82,000 number. 33,000 of these people have never been married. 9,000 married to a U.S. citizen. Married to a legal permanent resident, which would be somebody who's in the process probably of their naturalization. 24,000 are married to a non-U.S. citizen and a non-legal permanent resident. So 24,000 of these people, they're just here illegally. They need to be removed. And 12,000 have been divorced, separated, or widowed. Still need to be removed. Okay. The school enrollment of children and youth. So of the 8,000 enrolled, you've got 4,000 ages 3 to 12. You've got 4,000 ages 13 to 17. And the population ages of those 18 to 24 is 11,000. Those numbers aren't matching up. But we'll see. So 8,000 are not enrolled in this population here. Okay, got it. So this might be, I would say, college age. But yeah, okay. Education and attainment of adults. So out of 68,000, 0 to 5 grade 11,000, 6 to 8th grade 11,000, 9 to 12th grade 13,000, high school diploma or equivalent 18,000, some college or associate degree 7,000, bachelor's degree 9,000. Okay. I wanted to get down to this part. So English proficiency, because remember President Trump went forth and did an executive order deeming our country an English speaking country, which I thought it always was, but you go to California and you will get 3 pages of a document in another language. Yeah. To accommodate people that are not here from our country. And this is for state and federal services like cash aid, food stamps, housing. Yeah, it's put in other languages. It's crazy. Get off the soil. I think this is the only time y'all gonna hear me be real upset. I don't like people coming to my country breaking laws. I don't like it. I want you up off the soil. You don't care. You don't respect our country. You need to leave. Because if you did this the right way, you wouldn't be coming here trying to get on government assistance. You would actually have a job in place for your family, to support your family. You wouldn't be living off of the government. I want you out of here. I want you to go home. Yes, that's what I want. So, English proficiency. Out of the 87,000 that are ages 5 and older, only 8% speak English. Out of 87,000 people, you've got 21,000 that speak English very well, 21,000 that speak English well, and 37,000 that don't speak English well or not at all. They just tapped out. They're just like, I'm not speaking English. Get off the soil. I want you all gone. Let's be clear. I want everybody to go home, babies included. Y'all need to leave whatever location you came from. but not to speak it at all? Really? That you don't want to be here. You need to leave. You need to leave. Ages spoken at home, 66,000 are English speaking, where English is spoken at home, only 8,000 where English is spoken at home. I mean, that makes sense. If you're with people that speak like you, of course you're going to, use whatever the more dominant language in your home. That's the thing. Now, I wanted to also look at the workforce because the civilian population ages 16 and older is like 81,000 roughly. So you've got 7,000 of the 88,000 that are under the age of 16. So I know I'm doing a lot of number things. So you've got 54,000 of these people that are employed, 3,000 are unemployed, but there's 23,000 of them that aren't even in the workforce. Okay, if you've got 8,000 people under the age of 16, okay, I get it. They're not working age, right? How is there 23,000 of them not in the labor force? But you're here. Yeah. Get up off the soil. Okay. Top industries of employment. So civilian employed population ages 16 or older amounts to about 54,000. You've got 19,000 of those individuals in construction. 8,000 are an accommodation and food services, arts, entertainment, and recreation. There's another 8,000 that are in professional, scientific, management, administration, and waste management services. 5,000 are in manufacturing, and then the other 4,000 are in public, are in other services except public administration, which means they probably don't work at the city, right? But the city might use certain individuals' services for bilingual services, right? So just because they're not working directly for the city doesn't mean they're not working for the city indirectly. Because I've seen it. It's disgusting, and I've seen it. I don't like it. Family income. So 50% of the poverty level. 50% of them are below the poverty level. That's 12,000 people. So 50 to 99% of the poverty level, 17%, 100 to 149% of the poverty level, 16,000, 150 to 199% of the poverty levels at 12,000, and at or above 200% of the poverty level is 31,000. So most of these people that are here are still either below or at the poverty level. Now, access to health insurance. You've got 61,000 of them that are uninsured. Yeah, they're uninsured because some of them can't get a job. And then, depending on, where they're at in the state, they shouldn't be eligible for insurance. But what ends up happening is when they overflood the emergency rooms, people that come there behind them that do have insurance get random tests that they don't even need so that the hospitals can make up the shortfall. Yeah, that's how hospitals are getting over. They're charging people that actually do have insurance for useless tests so they continue to make money to make up for the people that are uninsured that are coming to their hospital. There needs to be an investigation behind that, by the way, because hospitals do get federal funding. So, yeah, they should be investigated. Now, home ownership. Now, this is interesting because I just read for you the poverty level stats and all that, and the work stats. How are you here undocumented and you are a homeowner? And there's 24,000 of you. How does that even happen? How did you even get a loan to own a home and you're not a citizen of this country? See, it's stuff like this that people don't know. This is the stuff that they don't talk about on the news. This is why I show you guys this stuff. And I hope, you are riding with me when I nerd out on some of these things, because I don't want to just say something, you'd be like, oh yeah, I heard this and that. It's like, no, when you go to Unfiltered News and you're hanging out with Dr. Nichols, like she is showing you the receipts on this stuff, because we need to talk about this stuff, because in South Carolina, you guys have a huge job. You got to get your sheriff, first of all, up out of office whenever that comes for reelection. Just know that that sheriff is letting violent criminals back on the streets. They do not care about your protection. Okay. They need to go. All right. And then, secondly, your other representatives that are these Republicans, like your governor, the House members, even Nancy Mace, you know what I'm saying? Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott, you need to call these people and say, what is going on? And then at the local level in Lancaster, like I said, I showed you the different city council members. You need to, if you are in South Carolina, these are the people that you need to call. You need to call them. You need to call Jackie Harris, Kenny Hood, Tamika Marsh. You need to call these people and demand that they remove these people out of Lancaster County, because that's the county that you can control, right? And then you need to spread it to the state. You need to call the members at your state level that are in your House and Senate that work with the governor and demand removal of all of these individuals. Because if they don't remove these people, they're not going to protect you either. So tomorrow, I'll make a note, because I know sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I want to talk about this, and I don't make notes. But I will make a note tomorrow to really look at South Carolina and look at who are in the state Senate and state House seats, so that you guys know how to vote in these upcoming elections. Because these are the people that, every, couple of years are coming around like, we need your vote. And they've got their hand out and they've got the great signs going and they're shaking hands. Well, are they doing the job? Because right now, all 6 of these people, in my opinion, they failed. Larisha Thompson, you failed her, because that person should not have been here. Those 6 people shouldn't have been here. You failed at your job. The sheriff failed. Okay. It's your job to fix it. So, in my opinion, you need to make sure that none of these people are reelected, because they will get in your face and they'll be like, oh, we didn't know. We weren't sure. What do you mean you didn't know and you weren't sure? This is your job. And if you can't do your job, then somebody else needs to take your place, because obviously you don't care. That's all I can equate this to. They don't care. Because if they did, things like this shouldn't be happening. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the Maid law for Illinois and really, go through that and find out what is going on in Illinois with that law. So, you know what? I will see you guys on the other side.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
Would legalize medically assisted.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. I'm here Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m., bringing you the news unfiltered. And so the next thing we're going to look at is this new law that they're looking to pass. I'm not sure if the law is actually passed or not. But I wanted to show you guys because this is very concerning. This is actually something that has passed in Canada. And I personally knew someone whose relative used this device. And it's called, in Canada, it's referred to as MAID, which is manually assisted induced death. That is the acronym for it. And they had a relative that was in chronic pain, and they had a chronic illness, and they just didn't want to live anymore. So they committed suicide by death by themselves. I mean, even if there was a doctor there supervising it, it's still suicide. So it's very sad. And now Illinois is looking into passing this. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's actually passed or not, but I wanted to check this out with you guys.
That would legalize medically assisted death for terminally ill patients is now closer to becoming a law in Illinois. It is nicknamed Deb's Law. It just passed the House after very heated debate with people speaking passionately on both sides. Let's explain it for you. The bill gives patients with 6 months to live or less the option to take a prescribed medication to end their life. Now, there are conditions here. They must be capable of making their own medical decisions. They would have to make multiple requests and be evaluated by 2 doctors. This proposal was named to honor Deb Robertson, a Lombard woman dying of a rare and aggressive form of cancer. Her representative read a powerful statement from her on the House floor.
But I deserve options about how and when I leave this earth. I deserve options to enjoy the time I have left with my loved ones and friends and not worry about how my death will occur. It is the last bit of control left to me.
Advocates say that 11 states plus Washington, D.C. have legalized medical help in dying. They stressed there are no known cases of abuse under Oregon's law, which went into effect back in 1997. Now, Republicans are worried here about a slippery slope.
You know, we have medical aid in dying already. It's called palliative care. It's called hospice care. This physician suicide bill is going to cause great harm throughout the state of Illinois, devaluing life, normalizing suicide.
Chicago's Archbishop also opposes this plan. In a statement, Cardinal Blaise Cupich said he believes the plan, quote, normalizes suicide as a solution to life's challenges, unquote, at a time when people are suffering from mental health challenges. That proposal will now be heading to the Senate. We'll keep an eye on it for you.
Yeah. So, that's part of the issue, right? Even when Dr. Kevorkian had his, machine, and he was a doctor assisting people in, ending their lives because they felt they had no quality of life yet. It was a very controversial thing, right? So, to the Republicans' point, it's like they do have hospice. They do have ways of, assisting people in leaving this earth. They do. I mean, there are already measures in place. Why are we doing this again? And it is truly a slippery slope because it can be altered. And I don't think people are really looking at that. It can be altered to be broadened. If you've already got things in place so people can pass in this life with dignity, hospice being one of them, they do have measures where people can have living wills and say, they want a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate. That is another way for them to say, you know what, if my body goes into cardiac arrest, just let me go. And, for them to want to bring this back up again, like I said, it raises the question, why? Why are you trying to go back to this well again when there are already measures in place? Because, like I said, with a bill like that, it can be amended and broadened, and that's just not where we should be as a society. Now, I know I had put in the title that the Democrats had given themselves a raise also. So I got to look at their budget, and I will pull that up a little bit later in all of the news that we are pulling. But isn't that crazy that they're they want to do this medical induced uh, death panel and you know make sure that, hey, we're getting paid behind all of this. You know, a lot of times when they want people to end their lives sooner, they're trying to alleviate the care that the state gives. And I'm talking about financially. And that's the things that nobody really talks about, the downside of um, wanting to end people's lives. So let's check out all sides. Not trying to get morbid on you guys. Let's see, making sure everybody can see. Okay, so we've got this headline from SCOTUS, and they declined to hear challenge to Maryland's AR-15 ban. I was actually in a Twitter space yesterday because Mondays are my days to kind of, get on X, see what's going on, see what people are doing. And this kind of came up, you know, um, having registries and different things like that. A lot of people say that um, the Second Amendment, when it was written, right, it was to ensure that everybody had the ability to protect themselves. But then there were certain laws that wanted to make sure that Black people still couldn't carry guns, right? And your ability to protect yourself, however you choose to do so, that's still God given. And I think a lot of people's concern that were like, yeah, we need lists, we need registries, we need this, we need that. It's like, okay, is this just another way to control people so that they can't protect themselves? But let's see what the Supreme Court had to say. So the Supreme Court declined to hear a case on Monday challenging the legality of Maryland's AR-15 ban. The case sought to overturn a Maryland law that labels the possession of various assault weapons, specifically the AR-15, as illegal. Justices Sam Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Clarence Thompson opted to take up the case, while an additional supporting vote would have pushed the move forward. Justice Barrett Kavanaugh indicated he would hear the case after certain decisions by appeals courts are settled. Thomas wrote, I would not wait to decide whether the government can ban the most popular rifle in America. That question is of critical importance to tens of thousands of law abiding AR-15 owners throughout the country. We have avoided deciding it for a full decade. And he's not wrong, because it's not the first time that this has been presented. So, for context, Maryland, one of the 9 states that have banned AR-15 possession, enacted its law in 2013 following the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. The court also declined to hear a case challenging Rhode Island's high capacity magazine ban, though the news was less widely covered than that of the Maryland ban. So this is how the media covered it. ABC News, which leans left bias, highlighted the decision was a major win for gun safety advocates. noting a decrease in gun violence in Maryland following heightened gun control laws. The Washington Examiner, which leans right, emphasized Thomas's dissent and constitutional concerns. The Hill, which is center, framed its coverage around Kavanaugh's signal that the court will likely address the issue of AR 15 bans in the future. Yes, because it's very difficult for the Supreme Court to rule on things that are still ongoing. I should say that, right? Because let's say there's 10 cases and, 3 of them have been decided, but there's 7 that are still ongoing. Yeah, the Supreme Court shouldn't hear those cases because once they made a decision, it could affect the other 7 cases inadvertently without hearing the full measure and scope of all of those decisions. That is pretty much the job of the Supreme Court. They're supposed to take everything into account and then look at the Constitution and say, okay, what is right according to the laws of our country? Like that. That's kind of the gig in a nutshell. And sometimes, in my opinion, they don't get it right because it gets politicized and it's unfortunate. So we're going to take a look at another story. Then we're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to look at this whole Illinois thing and why the Democrats are giving themselves a raise, which is it's just weird. Like, why are y'all doing that? So crazy. It is so insane. It's like, no, you shouldn't. You really shouldn't be doing that. But you know what? You're gonna do it. I'm just waiting for my screen to pop up. Like I keep telling y'all, I am my own best friend. And oh my goodness, sometimes my internet has just been like on the fritz today. And I'm like manually in my internet. Like I tried to do the best I could because I knew like last week was crazy. It was just my internet was all over the place. Y'all hung in with me with my phone calls yesterday. It was crazy. Just insane. Ooh. Yeah. This is something interesting. So let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. So the Trump administration deepens ties with Palantir, prompting surveillance concerns. The Trump administration has deepened, software company Palantir's work with the federal government, according to the New York Times, prompting concerns of extended government surveillance. Since Trump took office in January, Palantir has received over 113 million in federal government spending, according to public records. Last week, it also received $795 million contract with the Department of Defense. Okay, so agencies involved citing anonymous government officials and Palantir employees. The Times reported Palantir is currently working or in talks to work with government agencies, the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Human Services, Internal Revenue Service, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Social Security Administration, and the Department of Education. Now, you're probably wondering, like, well, why these agencies? Because these main agencies don't talk to one another. Yeah. It's almost like there's a firewall between all of them. So something could be going on with Social Security that the IRS doesn't know about and vice versa. This is how you get fraud, right? So with these specific agencies now able to talk to one another and have combined resources, now people are going to get caught. Now you're not going to be able to just, have dependents that aren't yours on your tax return so you can, get more money back. That's not going to be a thing anymore. And that happens. And people got caught in California through the local Los Angeles HUD department. It was a huge scandal because what they were doing, the people at HUD, they were selling the information to others outside So they were getting a kickback off of selling other people's information because people that usually typically have HUD don't file taxes, but they do have dependents. So they were selling these people's information. So legally they were dependents, but they weren't the dependents of the people filing taxes. Okay. But people were getting these huge tax returns because they were claiming all of these people as dependents on their taxes. Yeah, that's the kind of fraud that this could stop. So in March, President Trump signed an executive order that called for federal agencies to share data on American citizens with each other. In April, Palantir signed a $30 million contract with ICE to build a platform for tracking migrants. According to DHS spokeswoman Teresa McLaughlin, Palantir has had contracts with the federal government for 14 years. So this is prior to Trump even being in office. They were founded in 2003. The company struggled to find funding in its early days before it received $2 million from the Central Intelligence Agency. So the CIA has even used them. And I can understand why. It was probably just to streamline and the investigations that they had on certain individuals and aligning them, right? So if you've got one person involved in 3 crimes, but you can't figure out how that happens, yeah, this is a way to aggregate that information. So this is how the media covered it. The story was not the most widely covered by mainstream media. The Times highlighted the potential for government surveillance and concerns from Palantir employees. Newsweek highlighted perspectives from Trump supporters who were upset with the news. Several outlets highlighted that Palantir's stock jumped in light of the Times report. Zero Hedge, which leans right, was the only outlet from the right all sides found that from the right all sides found coverage from. So Zero Hedge was the only people that covered it, right? Because I think a lot of people, when they go, oh my gosh, the government has your data, like, I need you to calm down. It's how it's used. Now, when we got the Patriot Act after the Twin Towers, people were really freaked out because it violated the Fourth Amendment, which is the right to search and seizure, right? The right for privacy in the sense of, okay, I don't want somebody to just have my information, but then have the right to just show up at my door without a warrant, right? And what the Patriot Act was trying to do was trying to cut through a lot of the bureaucracy to get to the bad guys. But then again, it can be used on people that are innocent. That's the problem. It's not truly outlined to make sure that innocent people aren't being violated, because technically we're not supposed to be surveyed on our own land. But there are some people that do need to be surveyed, but they're not citizens. So it's like, are you really looking at separating the two? Because see, you've got Congress people saying, hey, people are, as soon as they step on the soil, they have a right to due process. No, they don't. And that's the problem. You're not standing up for the American citizens who do have the right of privacy. If you are here from another country, you do not have a right to privacy. We should be able to look at all of your things. And if you don't want to be a citizen here, why? Why are you here? I showed you the list of people that were here over, 20 years and never been naturalized. They're just sitting here illegally and okay with it. Those are the people that need to be investigated and removed off the soil, period. I am really okay with that. Now, do I want somebody showing up at my house, from the government saying, hey, you've been involved? And be like, okay, well, let's have a conversation. What are you talking about? If I wasn't in any of those places, I should have nothing to fear. Right? I really shouldn't. And the federal government, they just need to have respect for people. And I think by having these 6 agencies work together will actually help our country, because you know what? They're going to find out who's committing fraud with the IRS and Social Security fraud. They're going to find out who's not here legally, right? They're going to find these people and have them removed off of the soil. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why does HHS get involved in this? Because see, HHS we all need to remember they were working with the border and border security, and how a lot of these individuals came here and how a lot of these individuals are missing. Where are the children, right? It's that part. And that's how they are working together in tandem, along with the Department of Education that has been, whittled down. And it's not that the Department of Education doesn't exist. Some of the programs were outsourced to agencies that they made sense to be utilized. But yeah, the Department of Education, yeah, they need to be involved too, right? Because people send their citizens of their country here to go to school on our soil. Why are you sending them here to school? Why can't they go to college in their own country? And then, they can apply for a job here later on, but why do they have to go to school here? In my opinion, it's just another form of espionage, but you're just calling them students. Just saying. And with that, we will see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
Hey, and we are back. So, again, I just wanted to see, okay, so what's happening, with the finances going on in Illinois? And, there is a big spotlight on them, unfortunately, right now. There just is. I mean, it's sad to say it, but there is. So the Illinois House of Representatives, which is lower chamber in Illinois General Assembly legislation on May 31st, 2025. So during this session, state representative passed a $55 billion budget that included tax hikes on tobacco and gambling products. Wow. The budget was passed without raising taxes on working families, according to J.B. Pritzker. However, the budget did eliminate funding for the health insurance program covering non-citizens aged 24 to 64, which would end coverage for more than 30,000 residents. So again, they were funding people that were here illegally. When they use the word residents, because they definitely say non-citizens, right? So they're pointing out that these people are not here legally, but they were funding them before. And I think where I got part of this feedback, and I like using Brave, as you guys can see, there's been 2,697 trackers and ads blocked since I've been using this, which saved 48.4 megabytes of bandwidth. And it also saved me about 3 minutes of time. I wanted to go because I saw in my X feed, and you guys are seeing this here in real time. He's actually running, but he had another video that I Mark fully. This is where some of my research come from. This is what I wanted to see. Now, see, he says Illinois passed a bill implementing end of life to reduce services cost while simultaneously approving 7,000 pay raise for Democrats. Joseph has to say. Yes. So I've not met Mr. Severino in person, but I have, seen him on X. I've seen him on Facebook. So he's definitely got his social media going, and definitely check him out. But this is what I was looking for, the $7,000 pay raise. And as you guys can see, I didn't find it, but I will find it and bring it to you tomorrow. So not a problem. Now, to move on with the news, we just finished, talking about the deepened ties with Palantir, and I know a lot of people are going to be freaked out, like, oh my gosh, they're going to look at it. The government has your information. If you pay taxes, the government has your information. You need to calm down. The problem is their government entities not talking to one another, and there's a lot of fraud. A lot of fraud. And so, in my opinion, when I see a lot of these lawmakers, won't point out a specific party, when they're screaming about, oh my gosh, I can't believe, hands off my info. I'm like, yeah, hands off of your info, because you don't want to get caught, because you're going to get caught. The people that have put money in your pockets, they're going to get caught. That's why you're freaking out. You're not freaking out because you care. You're freaking out because you don't want to get caught. Whatever. So I'm going to move on. So this is something that I was interested in. Now, we're in the month of June, and I like the month of June, because it means summertime and vacation, and you just kind of get to relax and all this other stuff. But then there's something else that goes on during the month of June that I'm really not a fan of, and that is Pride Month. And I want Pride Month abolished. And a lot of people out there be like, oh, well, people should have freedom to express themselves and do this and that. It's like, no, okay, you can express yourself, but you don't have to be indecent about it. You can express yourself without walking down the street with a sock on. That's all I'm saying. So, if you want to do that, that's fine. But stop being indecent in public. So I wanted to look at, I asked, okay, I'm asking, I'm like, so what's going on with the decency laws? So in United States, obscenity laws vary by state, but federal laws apply uniformly across all states. So the Miller test, established in 1973, is the primary judicial precedent for determining obscenity nationwide. Federal statutes, such as those in 18 U.S. Code, Chapter 71, prohibit the transmission of obscenity and child pornography. So the Miller test determines whether material is obscene based on community standards, Federal laws prohibit the transmission of obscenity and child pornography. State laws vary but must align with the First Amendment and federal standards. Okay. But this is where a lot of this indecency by those from a particular community that has been given privilege, right, during the month of June to completely override all of those laws. Because the first thing they're going to claim is free speech. Your behavior does not fall under speech. That's the difference. And I really need people to kind of start to wake up to that. Okay. If you are in this particular group and you want to share something about the group that can be shared with everybody universally because you want children there as well, then it needs to be something that is decent, not indecent. Now, I'm not even going to show any of the examples on here because I think they've shown themselves enough. I think we'll probably, see things because it's the first weekend in June. But what I want to implore the Trump administration to do, and in all states, if people are walking around and there are children present at these events and they are literally walking around naked, they need to be arrested. They need to be thrown in jail. I think one of the worst videos I saw was somebody in a parade, and they were so emboldened that they started twerking on a police officer. And this police officer did not put this person down and handcuff them. No, they just let him do it. Just let him do it. I was like, what? You've arrested people for less. And you're just going to allow this? No. New day, new time. This is my opinion. People that do these things during this month, if they are being lewd, they need to be put in jail. If they are walking around with a sock on, they need to be put in jail because that's not what this is about. And if this is what it's about, what? Why are we here? Why is this degenerate behavior being allowed, right? So what the indecency exposure laws were, the elements of indecent exposure, you know. Um, so I just wanted to bring this up if you guys want to look through at Justia later. So indecent exposure is less serious than some sex crimes, but it still could result in jail time as well as a criminal record and the embarrassment of having this type of conviction. However, some accused of, sorry, I'm just reading, and there we go, of indecent exposure may have strong defenses to the charge. They should contact a criminal lawyer rather than trying to talk their way out of the situation on their own. Now, with that being said, it says, however, some accused of indecent exposure may have strong defenses to the charge. It's that right there is why people of a certain group, because they've been given a certain amount of privilege, are doing what they're doing. And that's the part that's wrong because it's abusive. It's pedophilia, it's abusive, and it needs to stop. Nobody wants to see you out in the street with a sock on. Now, there are certain groups that you can do that stuff off camera. If you want to get together with your friends and do that in your private area, right, where we don't have to see you, fine. I don't care. That's your business. But when you start walking down the street like that, claiming that it has anything to do with any type of freedoms, that's where I got to shut you down. Now, that's one side of it, right? And people were like, yeah, take it down. Yeah. Well, let's also talk about the other people that fuss at those people and look at, marriage. Okay. Underage marriage, to be specific. Now, there are 4 states that have no official minimum age, but still require either parental consent, court approval, or both. And those states are California, Mississippi, and New Mexico, and Oklahoma. Okay, so those are the 4 states. There's no minimum. So if someone approved of a 3-month-old to be married to a 50-year-old, as long as the parent consents to it, it can happen. Just saying. There's no official minimum age. Sounds ridiculous, but those are the facts. Yeah. You heard that child bride thing? Now, a lot of people are like, yeah, but some of those cities are democratically run, not Mississippi, not Oklahoma, maybe California, New Mexico, but not Mississippi and Oklahoma. Yeah. Walk with me. So, why are some Republican lawmakers hell bent on preserving child marriage? Yeah. And now this was last year in May 2024. So GOP lawmakers across the U.S. have opposed raising the marriage age, with some arguing child marriage bans would encourage abortion. Yeah. 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 The Republicans. Okay. So Holly Thompson Ritter was a sophomore when she dropped out of high school and married her 21-year-old boyfriend. Today, she's a GOP senator and the sponsor of a bill that would ban child marriage in Missouri, a bill that she has been surprised to see blocked by her Republican colleagues who argue there is nothing wrong with the practice. So I've just went over with you indecency laws. I, right? I just went over with you why. I'm like, look, we need to protect our children mainly. Protect my eyes as well, but we definitely need to protect children. But see, I want people to understand there's another side to this. Okay. We've got Republicans okay with child marriage. They're okay with it because they're saying, you will have fewer abortions. Okay. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the marriage between like an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the marriage between a 40-year-old and a 16-year-old. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And those things unfortunately do happen. It says, I know firsthand, I was married at 15. My sister was married at 16. My cousin was married at 16. I understand how a teenage girl being married off is harmful to her life. And sometimes that's hard for others who haven't seen that up close and personal to understand. Marriage is currently legal in Missouri at age of 16 with at least one parent's consent. That's a relatively recent development. Missouri lawmakers only banned marrying children who were 14 years old or younger in 2018. 7 years ago. It's not that long. Not 10 years, 7. 50 lawmakers, so 30 Republicans and 2 Democrats voted against that bill at that time. So before the 2018 legislation passed, Missouri had one of the laxed child marriage restrictions in the country, which some argue made the state a refuge for sex trafficking. Just saying. Just saying. So I also wanted to look at this other article that I found during my research. Now, this was updated. Previous article I read from was 2024, and this one was from 2023. Well, it might. I mean, what do you guys think? Were his comments taken out of context? I don't think so. I think they were taken in very well context. He was like, "Yeah, I know somebody who was married and they're still married to this day. What is the point you were making, sir?" And then turning around making a video that you wouldn't do that. It's one of those things. Please don't throw rocks and live in glass houses. And people could say that about me too, as well, right? Because I'm upset about, you know, children being taken advantage of in any capacity, whether that's marriage, whether what is going on. Oh, we got somebody watching this morning. Well, good morning, Mr. South US. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, streaming live on X. And here's the thing. We've got people that, and I'm really glad my guest that came on yesterday, he's, kind of parceled it out. We've got people that have been given privileges that they may not necessarily have, right? So for the month of June, for example, this particular group, they are given the privilege to walk around naked and just do all kinds of obscene things in the name of their ideology, because that's what it is. And it's really becoming a religion. And we really need to look at what's going on and not shy away from, calling it what it is, because that's what it is. Now, I wanted to show that, yeah, even though Republicans rail against that, there are some areas that the Republicans need to do better in, and child marriage is one of them, right? Why are these 4 states still hanging out with no minimum age for marriage? That means a 5-year-old can get married, a 2-year-old. And you guys are probably out there laughing like, ah, ha, ha. No, I'm very serious with parental consent. Someone could be born into marriage not realizing why are these things happening to me? I didn't choose this. Someone literally kind of sold me. That's why in that previous article it said that, there was all this sex trafficking going on in Missouri, and you heard the lawmaker. So these are things that we have to be conscious and aware of, that even though both parties rail against one another, are they really similar in certain aspects? Sorry, I'm sorry, GOP, you don't get a pass on this one. You guys, you need to have a meeting and figure out what's going on and figure it out. That's all I'm saying. You need to do that, because that's ridiculous. It really, really is. See. Nope. There was another one I wanted to look at. Well, we're going to take a quick break because there was a news story that I really wanted to bring up and share with you guys. So we will take a quick break, and when we return, we will look into it. See you on the other side. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday Eastern. And the story I was looking for is about Elon Musk. Now, I know this was last weekend going into the weekend, and there's been a lot of talk about, him leaving, and also about the spending that continues, even though he was trying to save money. There's like one other article that I wanted to look at, but I wanted to at least give this article brief read. So it says Washington's spending party continues as Elon Musk bids farewell to the swamp. Elon Musk's time as head of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is drawing to a close, but the national debt and runaway spending remain virtually unchanged. Despite the insistent media coverage of the cost-cutting effort, the Tesla CEO's departure wraps up a government stint marked as mass layoffs and a flood of legal battles over Doge's various moves to cut down the federal bureaucracy. Musk entered the role with bold ambitions of slashing as much as $2 trillion in federal waste, but he prepares to step back from it. So, there was a goal to save money. And a lot of people were like, okay, why aren't you letting him save the money? Right. And, he also said on the 28th that he was disappointed in the big, beautiful bill, saying it undermines Doge's work. Right. And I think that's because with lawmakers, they look at spending down the road and adding to the deficit, raising the debt ceiling, as opposed to having the debt ceiling but lowering the spending. Why are we spending more? I think that's usually everybody's question. Even Rand Paul has had a problem with the way they're spending money, but they continue to spend it. They're not stopping. So the tech billionaire who spearheaded the cost-cutting efforts at the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, said he was disappointed to see massive legislative package of Republican priorities make it through the House. I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit and it undermines the work that DOGE team is doing. Musk said in an interview set to air this weekend on CBS This Morning. So you guys probably have heard the interview because it's Tuesday now, and this was last week. But wow. So all of the work he did, running around with the Republicans, trying to get all this work done, and you're increasing the budget? I mean, why would you do that? Why would you completely go against what you were fighting for? It's like, we're going to drain the swamp and we're going to cut spending and we're going to do all these things, but you're not doing these things. And this is the stuff that I'm talking about. This is why I'm constantly on my viewers and listeners to say, hey, these people, when they come with their hand out asking for your vote, tell them no. Tell them flat out, absolutely not. They don't deserve your vote. They really don't. And, it's time to really call these people to the carpet because they don't care. I wish they did. I really wish I could say, yeah, but you're not looking at the overall, but I do want to play another video and just give you guys a little bit of a different perspective. So hopefully everything will play right.
Crockett, she's a member of the Oversight and Judicial Committees. Welcome, my friend. It's good to have you as always. Before I get to a couple things I'd planned to speak with you about, what are your thoughts about the...
Okay, and before we move on, this newscaster going, hey, good to see you, my friend. First of all, the news should not be friends with people in Congress. It just shouldn't. Now, okay, there are people that I do respect that are out there in the political community, people that I do want to, invite up. And I have, help them and we have gotten personal behind the scenes, but I don't know if I would ever, as a newscaster, say, hey, friend, because the news is supposed to be impartial, right? The news is supposed to be for us, the people. So even if I had a good rapport with somebody, I wouldn't call them friend on the air because then that creates a bias. And that's just my opinion, but I just wanted to point that out.
About Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security Secretary, being over there. Do you think this is about trying to repair some sort of fracture, tensions, as Matt Bradley was very aptly calling them? Is it about a quick discussion about what happened tragically this last week in Washington. Was there an underpinning about Israel not being happy about Donald Trump wanting to negotiate with Iran? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities what discussions could be about.
Yeah, you went over all of the kind of sane things that this could be about, but I have found a lack of sanity from this administration. I have found them to be more decisive when it comes to making sure that they've got a good photo op. And so as far as I'm concerned, I doubt that there's anything of substance that she probably is over there to deal with. I doubt that she is going to decide to have a conversation about what happened to those two young people that worked for the Israeli embassy and talk about potential security measures that may need to be increased and cooperation. I doubt it is anything of substance. You just had a good photo op, and I think that that's probably all Kristi Noem is good for, is a photo op.
All right, let's get to the tax breaks in President Trump's big, beautiful domestic spending bill. It's going to cost the government, what, about maybe more, $5 trillion. It's going to cut Medicaid, other safety net programs by at least $700 billion. Studies show those tax breaks are going to increase income for the top earning households, and I mean the top, while reducing income for the poorest 10%. So if it passes, how does it affect your constituents? And what do you say to Republicans who claim this bill is all about fiscal responsibility?
First of all, it's nothing but a transfer of wealth in a country in which, under the Biden-Harris administration, that wealth gap was actually starting to shrink because there were actual jobs that were being created. We saw through the CHIPS and that we are providing for opportunities tech. And in fact,
Sorry, the audio is dropping
that there
in
were
and
so
out.
many opportunities around new green jobs. All we have seen out of this administration is that they have cut jobs, whether it was within the federal government, the federal government. We about the belief in the American dream, that believe that he'd be able to have an opportunity at prosperity. So beyond that, beyond the fact that it's just really a cruel bill, it's this idea that they are going to somehow be fiscally responsible when we know under the first Trump administration, they ran the national deficit up $8 trillion. And with this one bill, they want to raise the debt ceiling an additional $5 trillion. So here is the deal. If we have cut off everything that would help somebody, which doesn't sound like a very Christian thing to do, if we're going to do all of that, at least have something to show for it. They have nothing to show for it except for, again, those top earners being able to say, have their next trophy wife or buy their next yacht or get their next plane. That doesn't work for me, and that obviously does not work for my constituents.
Let's talk about what President Trump did yesterday, giving the commencement address at West Point. Besides congratulating the graduating cadets, they got to hear the president veer off into his usual grievances and political attacks. Let's take a listen.
I went through more investigations than Alphonse Capone, and now I'm talking to you as president. Can you believe this? I must tell you, a lot of trophy wives. Doesn't work out. They subjected the armed forces to all manner of social projects and political causes, while leaving our borders undefended and depleting our arsenals to fight other countries' wars. The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows. We will not have men playing in women's sports, if that's okay.
So, look, we are all used to Trump making campaign-style diatribes in, inappropriate settings. But what is your response to him doing it at West Point?
Listen, you say we're all used to it. No, I am tired of it, Alex.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I'm right there with
he
you.
literally sounds like someone who is broken out of the insane asylum. Like, he just be all over the place. Like, get him some ADHD medicine, if nothing else, because I don't know where he's ever going to go. And I don't think that those that have gone through West Point expected to have their commander-in-chief address them and start talking about trophy wives or start talking about how he had so many investigations. What a great great reminder that you are not qualified to be the person that potentially will command us as troops to go into war. Like, that is not instilling confidence whatsoever. And honestly, our troops deserve better. Our graduates deserve better. We as a country deserve better. And frankly, if we are going to ever be seen as the world leaders that we historically have been, the world deserves better. It is time for Republicans to start calling him out and start questioning his mental acuity and whether or not he is equipped to serve mentally. We know when it comes down to his criminality, he is not qualified to serve. But this is just absolutely deplorable.
So Trump this week, as you well know, returned to his trade war, threatening a 50% tax on all European Union imports and a 25% tariff on Apple iPhones if they aren't made in America. I mean, this once again threw the markets into uncertainty. Stocks went plummeting. Listen to what political analyst Cornell Belcher told me about this yesterday. Here it is.
Imagine for one moment that Barack Obama was interfering in the free market system the way Donald Trump is. Imagine how Wall Street would lose their stuff. They would lose their minds if Barack Obama was having this sort of chaos and pain inflicted just on a whim. Wall Street, elections coming up, you got to make them pay for this. If you pull the plug on the pocketbook, and a lot of this might stop.
Do you agree with Cornell? I mean, is Wall Street just giving Trump a pass that it would never give to a Democratic president?
Oh, absolutely. There is no way. In fact, you're talking about Wall Street. I think even in this country, the people are giving him a pass. I mean, the pass when they elected him with 34 convictions. I mean, he has gotten nothing but special privilege treatment. And sadly enough, while he is enjoying this privilege, it is only causing harm and us. I mean, you know, this thing you never had. Credit rating recently reduced, which for what that went up hundreds, that means that your debt is going to cost you more money. I mean, all he is doing is costing us money and giving us less resources overall, and then telling us, you know what? Go ahead and pay more for that iPhone that we know that you're using consistently. Or he's telling our friends, like, why would you tell the EU that you want to invoke these tariffs? Tariffs should always be something that we are using on the people that we are not the friendliest with, not on our closest allies. And he started with our closest allies when he went after Mexico and when he went after Canada. I can't say that China is necessarily our closest ally, but when it comes to trade, we know that the world overall has been highly dependent upon China. That is why we were so stunted and why we ended up experiencing the inflation that we did when we went through the global pandemic. Right now, all the inflation that we are experiencing is self-inflicted or Trump-inflicted.
I'm curious, if the Democrats take over after the midterms next year, the House and or Senate, do you think they're going to push for investigations into Trump's family and the whole crypto acquisitions that he is getting?
Well, Alex, I'm glad you asked. So long as we end up taking the House, which I fully anticipate that we will do, and we are going to work hard to obviously help our Senate colleagues as well, then as someone who serves on the Oversight Committee and hopes to lead the Oversight Committee, I can guarantee you that we will do what we are supposed to do as constitutionally sworn members of the House, which means that we will conduct oversight. That means that we will investigate. We will look at whether or not this president himself the M.A.I.D has reached such things as
Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. And I'm sorry it's been going in and out as much as it did. I wanted to play that clip, and I know people are like, you're always picking on Jasmine. I'm not always picking on Jasmine. Jasmine is out there in the ether, and I have to look at what she's talking about because I want to make sure that what she's saying is true, right? And so, you know, some of those things that she was talking about, I'm like, okay, now, you know, interesting. as you would call, how should I say it? Photo ops. Yeah, you should know a lot about that. A lot about photo ops, and you've done a lot of photo ops, you know, yourself. Also, talking about inflation and things that could be done better. Well, we demand better from our House and Senate. And, there were a few bills that were signed under the last administration that put us in the tailspin that we're in. And now we have to get out of that tailspin. And I think we can do better, but we need to demand that the people that are in the House and Senate do better for us. But I wanted to show you guys this. And what it is, this is the big, beautiful bill, right? Because people are like, okay, there's money being added to it. But I wanted to show you the tax brackets. And for the people that were paying 39%, it's only going down to 37%. The people that were paying 10 stays at 10. People that were paying 15, it goes down to 12. So these numbers are going down. They're not going up. Now, when they talk about people losing their Medicaid and spending, they actually increased Medicaid. Let me look that up. So I'm not, a liar too with all these other people. Let's see. Medicaid. Is it going to come up? Nope. Not going to come up. Did I spell it right? Oh, maybe if I spelled it right. It's like, maybe if I spelled it right. So Medicare is going up. Let me see if I can find it. But, for a lot of these people where it keeps saying, oh, they're going to lose things, and it's for people that shouldn't be here. Those are the people that are going to be losing their benefits because they shouldn't be here. It says current law limits premium tax credit eligibility to individual who reports income over 100% of the federal poverty level and who is an alien lawfully present, not unlawfully. In the U.S., an exception allows such aliens who report income below 100% of the federal poverty level and are in their 5-year Medicaid waiting period due to my immigration status to receive premium tax cuts to purchase health insurance on the exchange. So this was the current law. Okay. Now, the provision strikes this loophole. It's limiting Medicare coverage of certain individuals. Under current law, individuals who are lawfully present in the U.S. and meet Medicare's standard eligibility requirements are generally allowed to enroll in Medicare. This provision would eliminate Medicare eligibility for illegal immigrants and only allow eligibility for lawful permanent residents, certain Cuban migrants, and individuals living in the United States through a compact of free association. So when we hear about, oh, they're taking people off of this and they're doing that, yeah, they are. Because some people aren't here lawfully, that were taking up resources. Right? A lot of us on X, we saw the receipts of a people getting $11,000 in food stamps and $5,000 in cash aid. What? And that's on a monthly basis. Who's spending $11,000 on food a month? And why are American citizens maybe getting $200 with a family of 4? And they actually do need the assistance, not as a way of life, but to bridge them so that they can get off of assistance and be independent and on their own. See, we never talk about how to help people get to the next level. We're more concerned with demonizing people that aren't there yet. And we need to stop doing that. I didn't always have the things that I have. I had to work for them, but there was a point in time in my life I was on assistance. I did live in public housing. with my family, not as a single person. I had children, I was married. Okay. Hard times happened. And I was glad for the assistance, but I didn't stay there. That's the difference. We need to encourage people like, hey, if you're having a hard time, everybody goes through a rough patch. Let's figure out how you got here and let's work with you so that you won't return to this situation, so that you can continue to move forward with your family, so that you can continue to prosper in this great nation that we have. It's doing that part. That's the part that we're not doing because, see, there's a lot of people making money off of people being homeless. There's a lot of people making money off of people being addicted to substances. Are they really trying to fix the problem? Or are they just trying to, you know, help a few people so that they can keep the money going? I mean, I know people that have worked with facilities and they are getting people up off of the streets and they are working their fingers to the bone. But those are the facilities that are in the neighborhood that don't get a lot of the money and they don't get a lot of the, I should say, accolades that they deserve. They just don't. And that's a problem because those are the people doing the really, really hard work and we don't acknowledge them. And that's why I'm grateful to be doing this program that I'm doing because I want to make sure that I highlight those people and I bring them on this platform so that you guys are made aware of things going on in the community that you don't always see. You know, you might find the next congressman or congresswoman on my show and want to support them. And I'm grateful for that. But that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that I'm bringing you guys the truth and being honest. So with that, we'll take a quick break and I'll see you guys on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And thank you for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday Eastern. I am your host, Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and thank you so much for joining us here today. We've talked about unfortunate assisted suicide, and that's very unfortunate, happening in Illinois. We also talked a little bit about, the month of June and the activities that go on in June, along with, some Republicans that may want to look at child marriages and not throw stones at other people saying that they're taking advantage of children when that could be happening with some Republican lawmakers. So I wanted to look at this story before I leave you guys. Now, this is a story that is like a left center. And it says Homeland Security stonewalling info on non citizen DNA collection operation. It's a lawsuit. I hadn't heard of this one. So, the Trump administration has been turning to DNA technology to help find and arrest immigrants, including children. But immigrant advocates say it has been slow to spell out how it's using and overseeing the genetic information. I'm going to stop there really quick because I know in his previous administration, he was trying to keep people together, right? Families. And so they did DNA testing at the border. But then after he left, other people came in and said, nope, you can't do this. And then you ended up with people actually just using children to get over the border, even though they weren't related to those children. So I just wanted to interject that there. So, 3 groups sued the Department of Homeland Security on Monday after trying to get records about the data collection program since last summer during the Biden administration. Now, that's interesting. So, 3 groups sued the department after trying to get records about data collection. So, last summer, Trump wasn't in office, Biden was. Okay, weird. Okay, so the plaintiffs are the Georgetown Law Center and Privacy Technology part of Georgetown Law, University of Law, that focuses on privacy and surveillance law and policy. So let's check this out. Now, this is a left center. Say they've been trying since last year to get details from DHS, which has increased DNA collections and contributions to the FBI database by 5,000 since 2020. Now, again, Trump was on his way out. Biden came in. You've been talking about getting, hot and heavy since last summer. Trump wasn't here last summer. So it's one of those things, what are we getting at? Like, sometimes they try to get you outraged and you're like, why am I outraged again? So it says the group described in their lawsuit their back and forth with DHS, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Border Protection since they originally requested information about their DNA collection from non-citizens. Okay, so this is going back to August 2024. Since 2020, DHS has expanded its DNA collection program and increased DNA contributions to the FBI database, CODIS, by 5,000%, becoming the largest contributor according to the Georgetown Center. The DNA database of the FBI can be increased by police across the country for criminal investigations, the plaintiff groups said in a statement. Steve Glaberson, director of research and advocacy at the Georgetown Center, said in a statement that DHS is expanding its database by collecting DNA from people accused of no crime, and while operating with none of the constraints that are supposed to be in place before the government compels someone to give over their most sensitive personal information. Well, here's the deal. If you don't want to give up your information, don't come over the border. Period. Super easy. Plain and simple, short and sweet. Oh, I got another thank you. Thank you, South US. He said a great interview on the show yesterday. Really enjoyed that. I'm so glad you did. And we want to have more great interviews. But back to this. So you're advocating because people had to give up their DNA. You're mad because more of it's being collected. And they're giving over their information. Well, they don't have to come over the border. I'm just saying, you got life choices. And I'm okay with you not coming over here. Like, I'm good with it. He said Americans deserve more visibility on the program and said DHS's lack of transparency is unacceptable. Well, you cannot hold the Trump administration for something that was happening in August of 2024, and he just got in office of January of 2025. I'm just saying, what's your solution here? Why are you mad about this? What? They're not collecting information from US citizens. They're collecting it from people who are undocumented here because guess what? These people keep jumping back and forth across our border. And some of them at the time were coming over with children that weren't even theirs and they weren't collecting any DNA data. You got to remember that was suspended for a couple of years. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's crazy. So Danielle Mello, senior staff attorney with America's Immigrant Impact Lab, told NBC News that previous administrations have also collected DNA. A 2005 law mandated federal agencies collect DNA from people in custody, including non-citizens. And part of that reason, I think, because when you go back to when Obama was in office, they were able to capture a lot of the cartel members, right? But they needed the DNA so that if these people did get across the border and maybe they got arrested again, they were at least in a database where they could be found. Okay. So what's your issue? Again, these people are breaking the law, coming over the border illegally. Yeah, we're going to collect their DNA to make sure that they don't return. You know what I'm saying? They should be deported. They should not be coming back. And if they do come back, we'll be like, hey, you were deported. Here, we have your DNA right here. And fingerprints, like everything. We should have everything. So prior to 2020, the Justice Department had told DHS that its immigration enforcement and border agents did not have to routinely collect DNA from every non-citizen it detained, Mello said. The Biden administration adopted rules requiring full compliance with the 2005 law, but whistleblowers and a government watchdog complained compliance was uneven, and it probably was. The Securing Our Borders executive order signed by President Donald Trump requires the Attorney General and the DHS to fulfill requirements on DNA collection from non-citizens mandated in the 2005 law. So I'll stop there. But if you guys want to check this out, it is at NBCnews.com. And you can look at Trump DNA collection immigrations lawsuit. So if you put in those keywords, you will be able to find this story. But I wanted to end on that note, right? There are just some things that make sense to me. People may not like that there's data is being collected at the border. Fine. Don't show up at the border illegally. That's all I got to say. You don't have to do that. But with that, we're going to end today's show. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me this morning and the bumps and the bruises of electronics. I am really trying to get better with these videos. I'm not sure why they're not playing the way they should. But, again, as I keep telling you guys, this can only get better day by day. So again, thank you for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'll see you guys on the next one.